Good morning. Oh, grand rising. Grand rising, everybody. Now we come to live spirit and coffee. Got my coffee here. Mm-mm-mm. Yum, yum, yum. La 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 la. Ha 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 hee hee. So let's see what I got in my coffee today. Oh, I'm doing coconut creamer now, or coconut milk with a little bit of cardamom, cinnamon, chai spice coffee. It's amazing, quite amazing. They have these cool little spices where you can add to your coffee and then mix it up, and it tastes phenomenal. So there you go. Gotta love the coffee, hence spirit and coffee, but of course, spirit first. So let it get started. Um, I am sort of just an update on what I'm up to. I'm sort of good morning, Dari, Dari, Darielle Johnson, Dariel. I don't know if I'm saying that right. I'm sorry. Daryl. I don't know where I got Dariel. Okay. Um, I just making up my own things. That's what I do. I tend to just make up my own stuff. So there you go. So okay. Super excited. Coming up to the end of my third quarter in my master's program, consciousness and transformative studies, doing integral life practice, which was a pretty awesome course. We did archetypes, dreams, and mythology, a net personal mythology, which is pretty amazing. And reading from the Living Labyrinth, which I think is an amazing book. If you're starting to are looking at your life, right? Our life is a story. It's a storyline that gets played out. And if we start looking at myth and archetypes and how those myth and archetypal patterns play out within our own self, in our own family and our own patterns, we can start to make sense about, who we are, and then how to overcome some of these trickster energies, if you will, or energies that are a little bit more difficult to manage that show up within us. Now, we notice that everybody doesn't have the same exact personality, right? It's almost like a fingerprint. It's almost as if each individual personality has its own unique pattern. And we do. We have our unique pattern. Good morning, Swan 52. Our unique pattern that we imprint on the world. However, the same archetypal patterns will show up within an individual, and it's not played out exactly the same. But if we understand what sort of energies sort of the pattern within us and the energies within us, right, that's where the power exists, because now we can work with the energy instead of against it, which is where resistance comes in, and mostly the resistance of who we are internally. Now, sometimes there are characters that are, not necessarily the ones that we want to deal with, and they could be seen as demons or the Luciferians, or whatever you want to call them. Some people even call them the archons and the eons. There's different names, right? The tricksters, the sinisters, the devil energy, whatever you want to call it, that exists inside. How do we work with and overcome these, right? It's like they have those sayings, not today, Satan, not today, right? But there's always that temptation energy that's there. And it always comes in, and everybody has it, right? And so therefore we live in sin, which is just means off the mark. It doesn't mean you're going to burn in hell for life. That's not at least how I view it. What I view it as is that we're a little bit too extreme from one to the other, right? And so when we become too extreme on one end or the other, we sort of get off our rocker, right? So, we can see this, right? With when it comes to, we have what we call the seven deadly sins. We can look at those and we can see the extremes on either end, right? Either end of it could be sort of magnified and split apart, and there can be one extreme or another extreme, and that extreme is not healthy for us. So it's looking at what's the middle path, right? Which is what Buddhism teaches us. The middle path is finding our middle way, where we can sort of balance these energies out and integrate and come into holism. Holism meaning that we are whole, perfect, and complete in the fact that we are understanding how to work with this unique divine pattern within us. okay, our personality pattern or our cosmic pattern or whatever you want to call it, the energy pattern that is within us, that's imprinted and sort of plays out. Now these energies, and it's kind of crazy because the Living Labyrinth, the book does talk about the different personalities, right? So, um, so the Living Labyrinth talks about sort of if we looked at it like there's these vampires and projections, right? And they talk about what exactly they're talking about when they say vampire symbolically, not from a place of people sucking other people's blood, but from the place of what does it mean to be a vampire, right? We have these things called energy vampires. People have, come up with that term where you go and you're hanging out. Good morning, El Gato. And you're hanging out with individuals or whatever, and you feel drained afterwards, and you're like, well, are they adding to my energy or taking away from my energy? What's happening here? So I kind of was reading this passage this morning. So the vampires exist in folk traditions of virtually all societies and exhibit a curiosity familiar set of attributes regardless of their period in history or the cultures in which they appear. They're deathless, the living dead. They must preserve their immortality by feeding regularly off the lifeblood of other non-vampires. They are wary of sunlight, and they either cannot see or cannot abide looking at their reflection in the mirrors or other reflective surfaces. Now, here's the deal. This is a symbolic thing. This is not, the myth of real true vampires, but we do have sort of the mythology playing out in, we have movies about vampires. I mean, people have wrote books and all this. But if we looked at it from symbolically, these attributes describe the experience of repression and projection. The person locked in eternal denial of repression cannot die. That is, cannot grow and change and mature. Once again, the metaphor of death is the symbol of psycho-spiritual transformation and change, the immortality and the eternal youth that is achieved in the self-deceptive feeling of internal completeness and the conquest, immunity from change. Beautifully put. In other words, we go through life and death all the time here. When we start to allow ourselves, to let go and recognize those repressed demons within inside of us, right? And if you guys want to call it, Christ, Jesus Christ, the perfect blood, however you want to call it, right? The lifeblood is talked about in this particular passage. So interesting, of course, that you should bring it up, but of course it's always connected, all universal principles connected, right? So when we looked at it, so we literally have these patterns of not wanting to let go of energies that don't serve us, but we also then repress the energy. And in that repression of the energies that we have within us, we tend to hold on to them, and then we suck the life out of others because we're afraid of our own demons internally. We all have them, right? Everybody has them. Everybody has those moments of, we're feeble in a lot of ways, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that, but we have the strength and the power to overcome that if we open our eyes, right, and recognize it instead of repressing it and acting as though it doesn't exist. That doesn't work. In fact, all it does is cause a lot of pain and suffering in our own bodies. So we don't want to let the beast out, right, and harm other people, right? That's not the point here. The point is to look at what's within us and allow those things to die. Okay, so if you want to go into the Bible and the blueprint of the Bible and all that, right, they talk about life and death all the time, right? The soul's dying, rebirthing, even baptism, whatever you believe in, right? They baptize, right? That was a rebirth. What that was doing was a letting go of the energies that didn't serve, allowing it to die so that you could be reborn, right? Reborn into something that was going to serve humanity, into your higher good, into dropping into your heart and serving humanity on a bigger plane. So they literally, that's the vampire archetype that shows up, the pattern that shows up. Now, can we deny it? No. We have people who literally live through this way. and their lifeblood, right? Rather than allowing that repressed energy to go away, instead, they hold on to it and they suck the life out of other individuals. They may not even know they're doing it. They may not even have any idea that they're doing it, right? And we know it, right? If you just kind of looked at the people around you, and good morning to those on Facebook. Good morning, Can't Sleep. Good morning, Bella and Darren, um, Arm, and whoever else is on here. I don't know who else is on here. But if we looked, sorry, I lost my train of thought. I was just talking away and then I just went boop, and then I said hi, and then I forgot. That's hilarious. It's all good. But when we look, when we look at the individuals around us, right? And we sort of take an inventory of maybe the people, our friends. Oh, hey, Nicole, how are you? I haven't seen you in a while. Good morning, Nana. We can start to look at the people that maybe draw energy from us. And sometimes we can even ask, are we being vampires? Are we taking all the energy from an individual to make ourselves feel better? Because we can't look at the reflection in the mirror. So this happens, right? When we start to look at ourselves in the mirror, and we either accept or deny ourselves, right? And we're like, whoa, I don't even want to I can't even look at myself, right? Or we look at ourselves, we're like, I'm proud of you. You're doing amazing, right? If we can't look at our own image, it's because we're not living in integrity, right? Internally, and we know it. And we're not allowing parts of ourselves to die. So we have to go out and suck the life out of other individuals in order to continue feeling good about ourselves, rather than letting it be an internal job, right? It's an internal thing where we allow these energies to sort of not be repressed, look at them and let them die, right? And if you want to say give them to God, right, you could say for those who are believe in, Jesus Christ and God, that you say, I give it to God. I leave it to God. I give it to God to battle this demon and take it where it needs to go, so that I can fulfill my divine purpose and so that I can live in harmony in my own body. Otherwise, you're battling your own body. You're repressing the energies within your body, and you start to battle internally in your body. You don't need to battle it. That just means you're repressing the energy. Okay? So that is the energy here. So if you want to read The Living Labyrinth, which is an amazing book, you can look at it, and it talks about the different energies and patterns that exist within the world. Okay. So once again, the metaphor of death is the symbol of psychospiritual transformation and change. The immortality and the eternal youth that is achieved is self-deceptive feeling of internal completeness and conquest. This is saying that there is no death, that we just are immortal. Well, we are in spirit, but this body is eventually going to decay, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. Immunity from change. It is the living death that this stagnation viewed from outside, but that feels like safety and superiority from within. The person trapped in self-deception of repression and projections is cut off from the psychospiritual energies of growth and change that are regularly symbolized as death and rebirth in the archetypal symbols of myth and dream. Okay, so here we go. If we looked at it, the life and death. Now, this isn't any mythological or religious, if you look at it, religious practices, right? Again, spiritual alchemy is for everybody, not just one individual. So if you believe in Jesus Christ, if you believe in God, even if you were Buddhist, even if you were Hindu, whatever you are, right? We look at the life and the death. Right? So again, since people are talking about the Bible, if you looked at life and death, it's that is within the Bible as well, right? Where you are reborn, and more than once, right? We have more than once. If we looked at it from the Bible's perspective, we have the baptism of, right, rebirthing, with purifying water coming out clean into something new, but also in the death of Christ, right? We look at the death of Christ, he rose again, That was his death and then his rebirth, right? He rose again. So there's the death and the rebirth. Now, if we looked at it from the perspective of our own life, right? And we said, well, okay, we're going to follow that, right? If this is the blueprint that you live by, right? And you say that God's blueprint is the blueprint I live by, and Jesus Christ is the only way. Okay, cool. So now let's look at that. Well, what are you doing, right, in your life to allow yourself to be reborn, death and reborn, to allow yourself to change and transform into a better version of you, a more purposeful version of you? What is it that you are doing now? Are you understanding that you yourself have the ability to go through this death and rebirth? And that the death and rebirth is a basically you recreating that print, right? Because we have an archetypal pattern. Everybody's different. Nobody is the same. We are, but we're not. We're connected to the same source, but the way that we project out, so we can see it as a projector, right? And let's just imagine, and this is just a visual to help you understand. Let's imagine that there are 5 projectors and 1 screen, and it's all being projected on 1 screen, okay? Well, we're projecting on 1 screen, all of us. Now let's take it back. Let's say that that projector is connected and wired into 1 circuit. That circuit is allowing that energy to be projected out. That 1 circuit would be the all connecting web that's connected to all of us. But we have this unique ability to project our own personality and our own internal beingness into this world. No 2 people are the same. So Daryl, I don't know if Daryl's still on here, and I don't know if Swan 52 is still on here. They have the same belief, right? Their belief is the same, but get them in the room and get them talking to each other. They will have different viewpoints and different personality, right? Their personality won't be the same. They're not going to be exactly the same. They'll be different because they embody different energies within their own self. Now, to get to the divine self, right, we have to sort of sift through all of that, right? Because they were born in different places, different spaces. Their visual way of seeing the world and their perception is going to be different and unique. So your way that you view the world is going to be a lot different, right? It's the projection that you see, the way that you see it, and the way that you engage it. Even the way that you engage the Bible, right? You guys may have some disagreements on stuff. I don't know, right? How it'll be. We all have a different wire, a different belief system. And so because of that, right, we start to look at those imprints and personality types that we have. When we start to understand the energies that we're embodying, what energies are we embodying? What personalities are we embodying? Which ones serve us? Which ones don't serve us? Okay. Again, we're not the same person in all situations, right? Like there'll be a day you'll wake up and you'll be like, yeah, I'm on fire. And you just feel good and you're ready to go. And that's just like one personality, right? That's one side of you. And then maybe another day you wake up and you're like, I'm tired and I don't want to do anything. You're the same person, but there's a different energy inside of you. You feel different, right? You don't feel exactly the same way every single day. There's always changes within it. Or you're with friends, right? Yes, we all have the same soul, the same energy. Yes, we come from one thing and we all project outward, but we embody different parts of it because it's so vast. I mean, no one can really understand the source, right? Completely. Like, I think we'd explode. That's how I feel, at least. It's too much. It's too much. So the connection, right? The interconnection. And then when we look at it and we say, okay, well, when I'm in this situation, right? Or when I'm with my friends, I feel like I'm closer to who I really am, maybe, right? And then when I get around my family, I feel like I have to like sort of maybe tone it down a little bit, right? And so I'm kind of not as much of me as I am. And I repress some of me because I don't want to maybe hurt people's feelings. Maybe when I'm with my friends, I'm more authentic and I speak more, fluid or whatever it is, right? And this is just an example, but you change. You change. Hey, baby Wolf, how are you? We're all itching it, but the same aren't all the way. Not at all. Yeah. So then when we look at it, right, really what it's saying is to allow those parts of you to die, right, that want eternal youth, because we do have to change. We do get to change. And as we get mature and we get wiser and we start to recognize that there are certain patterns that don't work for us, maybe temper tantrums, right? Like when we were kids, maybe we were temper tantrum kids. You're not going to be a temper tantrum adult unless you are. You definitely could be, but I don't think it's going to serve you um, as an adult, right? So we change over time. We sort of let certain parts of us die, and that's the death and the rebirth. We let them die out because they no longer serve us, and we're aware. And now we have power with, not power over, but power with it. Maybe the same feelings come up, but rather than throwing temper tantrums, we know how to handle it in a mature way. So we allow the change to happen. Okay, so think about it because, good morning, PPG. Imagine if we had, and we do, don't get me wrong, we do, but imagine if we had a bunch of adults throwing temper tantrums like when we were kids. That would just be weird, right? A society would be like, what is going on? Trying to fix this camera. Sorry, guys. I mean, there are adults that still, good morning, big child, that still throw temper tantrums, right? And a part of it is why, because it's that immortality, right? They don't want to die off the old patterns, let go of the old patterns. It's that youthful immortality of staying the same always and not changing. It's almost like the Peter Pan effect, right? Where Peter Pan wanted to be young forever. And I guess he thought that cutting his shadow off would allow him to stay there. Well, the shadow is the repressed, right? All that repressed stuff that allows us to grow. The shadow allows us to grow, believe it or not. Those demons inside of us that we have are some of the most important pieces of us because they teach us. They teach us compassion. If we didn't have the shadow side of us and there was no such thing as a shadow, we wouldn't have to learn compassion. We would just be compassion. We would be love. We wouldn't even have this. Spirit and coffee wouldn't even exist. Alchemy wouldn't exist. None of this would exist. We would just be hugging all the time and smiling and happy. But that's not the case. Why? Because there's a shadow side. That shadow side allows us to grow into spiritual maturity. That even though people are afraid of this devil demons, they are teaching us something about this particular time space. It's here for a reason. We can battle them and have the strength and be brave and courageous, or we can just repress it and act like it doesn't exist. And that is even more detrimental to us physically. Like physically, we get sick. We will get sick if we hold all that in. We're aware, let's see what it says. We are aware in a physical but unaware of our life journey because we are not of our higher subconscious, higher selves. We are of a light being that's stronger than us. Yeah, it is. It's almost like, and I have this model that I created, sort of like if we were these crystals, right? And there we had stars attached that the star is projecting that light through us, and then we are the crystals that are projecting our rainbow outward. And each crystal has its own unique pattern. If you put light into any crystal or any diamond or whatever it is, whatever radiates out's going to look a little different, right? I mean, it'll all have the same colors, but it might project a little different. So that is it. And sometimes we have this obstruction in the way that's like cutting off our rainbow, right? It's like it's cutting off part of our rainbow. So we have to work with the energy, allow the obstruction to sort of go away or be severed so that we can shine our light through. Or we can allow the light to shine through us. When we pass into the afterlife, we change into our true forms. Yes, let's hope so. I've never died, so I don't know, but I do have friends who have died. And so that right there is a complete faith, right? Faith in something that's beyond um, this dimension is an experience. Yes. So I believe that as well. But again, it's a belief in faith. And I have a belief in faith. I've always had belief in faith. And let me tell you what, I've had a great, magnificent life because of it. So I tell people have belief in faith. Why not? Your life's going to be amazing if you do. Um, but I have had people who have had a friend of mine actually did die. And I think he had a pretty profound experience and he changed completely after it. I mean, his whole life shifted. And he died for quite some time. And there are people who talk about, their death experiences. I've never died. I've been pretty close to death before. But death and rebirth in this life you can do. And doesn't matter again what religion you are, even if you are, especially if you are a follower of Christ, he died and was reborn more than once, right? He died again when he got baptized. That's death and rebirth. That's a rites of passage. That's literally a ritual that's done. And they still do it today. You can still be baptized. And I think if you look at it, I think there's all of the different sectors. I don't know if there's one that doesn't because I don't know. I'm not a scholar of the Bible and then the different arms of all that, but still is baptism. People still do it. It's a rite of passage. And in fact, if you looked at rite of passage altogether, rite of passage is a death into maturity. They do this even in native cultures, in native traditions. They have these rites of passage as you start to go through different cycles of life. Now, even for me, I'm getting into an older age, right, where it's like premenopause, right? And so in that stage, and when you go in through menopause as a woman, there is a rites of passage. There is a maturity, right? We're maturing into the next phase of our life. It's almost like we are butterflies that have many cocoons then we can shed, right, over and over again. And so we do that, right? When we're babies and then we mature as we get older and then we get into teenage years, which, oh my God, if you guys have kids, I don't, but I have nephews and nieces. And as soon as they hit teenage years, they change. I don't even know what happens. They become whole different people. And it's like, where did that personality come from? Because I remember you being so kind and sweet, and now you're a little mouthy. What happened? They change, right? And okay, Yolanda, I haven't seen you in a while. How are you? Um, and as my sister says, she has a boy that his balls dropped as soon as that happened. He changed. I just think it's funny. But it's true. After a certain age, my nieces became somebody totally different, and they started. And I was like, "Who are these kids? Do I even know them anymore?" Um, and we start to kind of go, "Hey, Thug." I like that. What's up, Thug? um, they started to mature into something different. And then you get older, right? And then you get into your college years and maybe you're starting to mature into other pieces of yourself and other parts of you die off. And then before you know it, you're an adult. And then you go into adulting. Yay, so fun. Who wants to adult? No one ever. I don't know anyone who's excited about adulting. If you are, kudos to you. Teach us and tell us and preach to us why it's so fun to adult, because I have not found any fun in it. Okay. And then we get into adulthood, right? And then after adulting, we start to mature into these other, people have midlife crisis, literally. Like this is a thing, right? These are terms that like people came up with because they saw that people were having midlife crisis. They don't know what they're doing. All of a sudden, they're this new person. They don't even feel the same, and they're, buying $5 billion cars and, or whatever. They're divorcing their families all this stuff starts to happen at a certain age, right? And you're just like, who is this person? I don't even know them again. And so we change. So we're going through these changes. And really what's being called forth is a higher consciousness, right? It's a higher understanding of who we are. And if you do as every religious practice tells us to do, right? So yes, the Bible, yes, Buddhism, yes, Hinduism, yes, Sikhism, Jainism, all of them, right? Even Muslims. When we look at it, it's all telling you that you have to look at yourself. Just look at yourself and figure yourself out. When you start to do that, you'll start getting closer to God, because that's where the answers are, within you. I don't have the answers for you guys. I might have a process, right, and a support, but I don't know you. I can't tell you what your relationship with God is. I don't know that, and that's not for me to know. It's a very personal thing for you. But as you mature into that, and as you know thyself, you will know God. And this is this in every, I mean, you could go back to ancient times. Just know yourself, get to know you, become best friends with you. Be your own best friend and see what happens. Why don't you try that Monday? Try that or don't. It's up to you. Age is only a number. We still have young hearts within. Absolutely. That is the childlike innocence that we carry. That is the purest form of who we are. But as we go through the journey, we know that that gets lost. And then we're journeying back to that sensation and feeling of wonder, right? But we're allowing ourselves to mature. And as we mature into different ages, things that don't serve us won't serve us any longer. We let it go. Again, if you were a temper tantrum, it's a great one. If you're a temper tantrum kid, I mean, it's not going to serve you as an adult. It's not, you get that that's not going to serve you. You can't go into a store and throw a temper tantrum and expect that you're going to get your way, right? You probably have the people, clerks, or the managers look at you and be like, yeah, not, yeah, no. I don't know, maybe they do. We have people in the store. Could you imagine if we all went into temper tantrum mode, adults like in the store, like not getting our way, or they didn't have the cookies we wanted and we just threw ourselves on the floor and started kicking and screaming and crying? That would be kind of interesting, right? What an interesting world we would have if that were the case. But we don't. I mean, at least I haven't seen that happen. I mean, I've seen some tantrums, but not like, I don't think I've ever seen that happen, like where they go on full on the floor kicking and screaming. I don't think I've seen that happen. You know. So, but we go through these phases, and at the end of the day, we're looking for that childlike innocence, that sense of wonder and curiosity, and remembering that we are. So, circling back to that, which is not the temper tantrum, right? It's more of the, wow, this is a beautiful life, and grateful and gratitude. And then just being open to new ways of seeing the world, right? New perceptions, different ways of viewing it, different ways of engaging it. So there you have it. So go out and be your own best friend today. That's what I'm going to do. Be my own best friend. Have some deep talks with myself this morning about life. That's interesting. Then answer myself, and people would think I was crazy. That's okay. So be your own best friend, and remember that energy, right? At the beach listening to you. Oh, Tony, at the beach. How nice. I'll be at the beach soon. I can't wait. That'll be so nice. I can't wait. So there you have it. I love you guys so much. Have the most beautiful, fabulous day ever. Go out, be your own best friend. Love on yourself. Ask yourself if those characters inside of you that aren't serving you, or how do we allow them to die off and be reborn into the true, authentic version of who we are. Okay, that is what I'm up to. So lots of love and kindness and blessings and beauty to you today, and just go out and enjoy your life. Okay, live your best life. How about that? Okay, I love you guys. Bye bye.